Yeah, so what's up, everyone around the world, and welcome to episode 3 on season 2 on the RT show, hosted by me, Jez, and fellow co-hosts Rich, Sai, where we deliver the talk that is real. For the latest episodes, visit us on rtshowpodcast.com and also our current social sites, links on there too. We're on Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, so please do follow us. Joining us on the show tonight is a listener on the show, a long-time friend, Sarah Autumn. Welcome on board. Glad to have you on.
Hello.
On this week's episode, we are digging
I'm so excited to be here actually because I'm really like proud of you guys. Are at episode season 2 now. Yeah. Episode 3. That's wicked.
Yeah, it's been through the period of kind of like lockdown. Really, we've kind of started from February, going all the way, continuing. Really, we had a bit of a hiatus during August, September time. But yeah, we've been starting recording again just around the end of September. And yeah, we're kind of back now. I say by popular demand. We had some questions asked to us when you're coming back. So yeah, we have to kind of get back on top, really. So yeah, it's good to be discussing various new things out there, really, now, especially what's current. We're going to be discussing topics tonight around lockdown 2.0, which has happened very recently. We're also going to have a chat around free school meals in the UK and kind of like the changes that we're trying to enforce to the government, who are kind of doing a U-turn on that. So yeah, I want to kind of find everyone's views alongside that, really. And yes, the recent US presidential election results. Try and get everyone's thoughts on that, which I'm sure we're all very happy on that. So without further ado, Sarah, just want to say a massive thanks for coming on. First thing as well, how is everybody doing? Is everyone good?
Yeah. Fine. All fine.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man, I'm all good, man. All good.
Kind of relaxing. I've not done much today, so it's been quite a chill day. And obviously, the election results have put a little spring in the old step.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. So, Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you currently do for a living, to the fellow listeners out there. It'd be good for them to hear that.
Well, these questions, there's a different answer to this question since COVID, to be totally honest. Making a living is not really kind of what's happening right now. But yeah, so for the past 10 years, I've been doing training courses for businesses, technology and marketing type stuff, universities, businesses, and giving talks and that kind of thing. Since COVID, lockdown 1.0, unfortunately, a lot of the industry is not really existing at the moment. I do a lot of in-person stuff. So there's been a lot of cancellations and not much work, but also obviously due to lockdown 1.0, Max has been off school full time, and obviously I'm a single parent to Max. So I would say that's kind of what I do, but I'm not really doing it right now. And then the other kind of big part of my life, probably, equally so, apart from obviously my son, is I do a lot of sort of community work and activism. And during COVID, it's probably increased more so because of the need has increased, but also because of like not really working as much and so on, and obviously less social activities. So that's been something to keep me busy.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for introducing yourself. And I suppose we make a big start on lockdown 2.0. We know how obviously it's starting on Thursday in the UK, and yeah, we've seen that a lot of businesses again, will be affected by this in various different sectors. It's just with what's happened and from what the kind of like the government have said around these changes, there's almost like a bigger picture now. After the 2nd of December, what are going to be the plans then? Are we going to plan on going into another lockdown? after December, when everyone's kind of gathered again, meeting family, friends, going out to bars, pubs, because we know, in my opinion, I think that's what might happen. People are going to
Yeah.
be kind of like depressed, isolated, and wanting to kind of go back out again and meet their friends and enjoy that social aspect. Whether you're out
Yeah.
going to a pub or a bar, whether the rules will be followed, we don't know. But I'm just thinking out there. I mean, how would you say, this is obviously going to you, Sarah, first. How would you say the new lockdown rules are affecting you and those around you currently?
So yeah, so the current going into lockdown again, it affects everyone so differently, doesn't it? We all have quite a unique experience of it. I obviously, me personally, it means obviously not really being able to go back into work in the way I'd hoped and thought. And even kind of, because I'm self-employed, it's not just a case of switching it to online, it's a case of like reselling it all again and rebooking work again and stuff like that. So it does extend that period of work. And obviously I live just me and Max, so not seeing people will be a challenge. But then at the same time, I've got friends that have being able to carry on working, but maybe they work in the NHS, and it's has a massive impact on them for different reasons, because it's absolutely stressful and overwhelming workload. And then obviously business owners that are shutting shop. I think it affects everyone around me differently. But for me personally, it is just going to be a case of delaying the existing experience really of work and childcare challenges. That's the kind of main thing. I'm kind of accepting of it at this stage, in the sense of like, oh, here we go, because I kind of did expect a second wave and a second lockdown. Timing wise, well, we've had local regional lockdowns on Eid, haven't we? We've had this lockdown nationally on Bonfire Night. And so what that says for Christmas, I've got no idea. It'll probably open for us all to go out spending loads of money on Christmas, and then actually lock down again on Christmas Eve. Who knows? I think it's making people get into a place of like, each day as it comes, isn't it? We just don't know. I don't know what I'll be doing next year for work, or I mean, there's other projects and things I can be doing, but in terms of like having solid plans, I don't think any of us really have them anymore, do we? Fixed goals. I don't know about fixed goals anymore.
Kind of goes out the window, doesn't it, in a way?
Say that again.
Kind of goes out the window, doesn't it, in a way that.
Well, that's it.
Just can't really plan ahead.
I completely embraced the first lockdown. I embraced it in the sense of, obviously it's a nightmare and no one wanted COVID, but embraced the fact that lockdown was needed, and that it was going to protect lives. So when I say embrace it, I just mean that lockdown was the solution. Obviously, it's hard to talk about lockdown without going coulda, woulda, shoulda about the first one, isn't it? Was it too late? What about eat out to help out? All these things. You feel frustrated, don't you, that lots of decisions before have led to where we're at now. But we can't also kind of like throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't know if that's an okay term these days. I don't know if it's a weird term to you, but we can't like say, oh well, because it should have been done better last time, screw it, let's not do it at all now. I'm still trying to be relatively rational about it, but it's really hard, isn't it? Like, you steer up and down from day to day. Sometimes you think, oh gosh, it's all a lot of nonsense. Not the virus on my part, but the way it's been managed and handled.
The way it's been managed,
yeah. And then sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm a bit nervous again, and it's all, I don't know. It's very hard to say really, day to day.
No worries. Thank you on that. And Sai, what's your thoughts around this new lockdown rules affecting you and those around you? What's your take on that?
It's not affected me massively so much, because I still go to work, working in education, and that's the thing I kind of alluded to when we spoke just before the show started, that there's the whole thing of, you know, whether schools should close for a few weeks as well or not. But the type of children I work with, they are classed as vulnerable children, and the damage closing schools would do for those types of children, they've already had lots of damage done to them in the first lockdown. It's just massive. And it was a missed opportunity over half term. You know, some people I've spoken to who work in education have a feeling that something might be done around Christmas as to whether a 1 or 2 week lockdown might be tagged onto the 2 week Christmas holiday, either before or after Christmas, just to try and give a bit of breathing space. I think personally, I think it's quite telling that the government have extended furlough until March. That, you know, the lockdown,
especially when they've done it 3 months at a time up till now.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, sorry to interject, but when you're talking about schools, I was in the first lockdown, I was proactively, you know, against schools being open too soon in June, and stood 100% behind the NEU on that basis, that it was too soon to open, you know, and speaking as someone who couldn't get back to work, and, you know, as a single parent, I still felt it, you know, it was too soon. But then now, with the second lockdown, Max is back at school, it all seems a bit bonkers, but I understand, even just as a parent, what the alternative could look like. More and more weeks off school. You know, we've already had 6 months, so it's really hard, isn't it, to know what's best.
It is massively, and that's kind of where I'm almost in the middle of things, because you want to try and control the spread of the virus, and schools are a perfect breeding ground for the virus to spread, particularly, you know, secondary schools, colleges, unis. We know, we've all seen the things in the media about unis. Again, for me, that was one of the mistakes the government made. You know, that it should have been a directive that unis will deliver all of their courses online for this academic year.
100%. I mean,
you know, a couple of unis did, I think, have done that, because they're set up to do that anyway. They deliver distance learning courses, and
you know, they don't necessarily get accommodation fees, do they, if they do that? And this is the thing, they brought them all to uni, business as usual. Sorry, I don't mean to get ranty about it, but, you know, they've told the students to traipse across the country, go and live with you know, hundreds of other students in your accommodation, business as usual, to get the fees and the accommodation money, obviously. And then now they're in situations like we saw in Manchester the other night, where they put fences around the university halls. I mean, I think it's outrageous treatment of students. Personally, I think universities and colleges should definitely be online.
Massively. And you know, the money, the old saying, prevention's cheaper than the cure. That, you know, they could have put the money into the universities to cover the lost revenue they've got from the fees. Sorry, the accommodation. But that was a missed opportunity.
There's plenty of people that need housing as well, you know, during this crisis. People that are going to be falling into, you know, homelessness and poverty, refugees. You know, we could have moved it on that. Yeah, this is always about a redistribution of resources and money, isn't it? There's always a better solution to the one that the government are putting forth, it seems, at the moment. You know, you can reutilize what you have to the benefit of the whole community, but, you know, obviously.
Absolutely. And I think in terms of the lockdown, personally, I don't think it's going to shift massively on the 2nd of December. I do think they might do something, a temporary opening, you know, so people can go shopping, which I know that sounds crazy, but like Sarah said earlier, that for the economy, that it's going to lose out on hundreds of millions of pounds if it's just locked down completely over Christmas. It's the retail sector. So I think they'll probably open temporarily for however long, up until Christmas, and then it'll lock down again. Again, the clue's there with the furlough going on until March. But it's just, you're almost used to things, you know, changing so rapidly now, because it's been going on since March, hasn't it? And they don't know their arse from their elbow, do they? Let's face it. You know, they're constantly contradicting themselves. The policies that go out there surrounding it. You know, Boris announced the lockdown, so yes, we'll reopen on the 2nd, then Gove's on Andrew Marr the day after saying, well, yes, it could go on for longer. And you're like, well, Yeah, we know that. Just be honest. Just be honest. The people will have a lot more respect, and naturally, more of them, I think, will probably be more inclined to adhere to what you're saying. If you held your hands up and say, we've got quite a lot of things wrong. It is a new virus. It's developing. We've had to make calls kind of off the cuff at times.
Yeah.
And some of those have been wrong. But they won't. They put all.
Well, they won't, because all of the calls that they've made that are wrong are fundamentally because they believe in profit over people. And the thing is, they haven't changed that perspective. So, they're not going to change the way they deal with it, because they still believe that profit goes before people. So even though they might have made things wrong, done things wrong, and everyone can see it plain and simple, they don't really want to change that, I don't think. Like, obviously, the economy is important. Of course it is. But the reality is that, lives are more important. So
absolutely.
I think that businesses should be supported, not, in the shutdown process and things like that. I don't think any individual should suffer financially, but I do think lockdowns are sort of, part of the solution, as well as mask wearing and sanitizing and stuff like that. I just think because they've handled it so appallingly, people's mindset and mental health and obedience around these things is just understandably not there, is it? We just don't trust it, do we?
No, and I think you've made a great point there. So it's the trust in what's coming out, and because the advice keeps changing as well, and now they're talking about possibly, you won't have to isolate for 14 days, it might go down to 7. So, well, where's the science come from to say that then? Because you've always been insistent it has to be 14 days because of the incubation period before symptoms can have. So there is, I have to admit, there is a tiny part of me that's really skeptical about the way they're handling things as well. Of course, the virus is there, it exists, and it is horrible, but the way they're handling it, because there's this little thing that's still going on in the background that's not really been reported on now since COVID, and is Brexit. That we can just quietly sneak out the back door without a proper deal, that's going to be also detrimental to people's livelihoods and lives going forward because of the mess they've made of COVID. So that's the talking point. And then all of a sudden, we before we know it, we're in January and we're out of the EU, and it's like, but where's the deal? What deal have we got? And I don't know. There is a little part of me that's skeptical about that as well. But I better not get onto that, because
well, I think they'll always utilise difficult situations. I mean, I think the thing is, they're opportunists. So where the virus could not be premeditated, they'll always take the opportunity when people are in vulnerable situations to kind of further their own cause, they being, I don't know, the government in position. So I understand what you're saying there, and I understand that they definitely have throughout this, they've taken every opportunity to break down democracy and social cohesion, community, and even to the extent of protest, and they really have put a lot in place to reduce resistance. So I completely understand where you're coming from, but I think they've definitely just done it as opportunists. But who knows how long they knew about these things? We don't know, do we? I mean, I was in Calais in February, in France in February, end of February, and no one mentioned COVID to me at that time. It had been vaguely talked about, but in reality, we know that they knew things so much more before, don't we? As things have come out over time. So who knows what they know and what they're.
It's just so much up in the air, isn't it? We don't know how long the government or governments, because we're thinking about US as well, one of the most powerful, governments as well in the world, about how they knew about it as well. And I don't know, I know we don't really want to go off topic on that.
I'm not cynical about the virus at all, but I'll always be cynical about some of the decisions that have been made along the way. So more so because I do think they've put money and over people every single step of the way.
Yeah, no, super, definitely good points you guys have raised there on that. Rich, how are the new lockdown rules affecting you and those around you?
I think in my household, both me and my partner have been able to work, so that's a blessing. We've all got our health, and health is wealth. I don't want this to become like an echo chamber, but I feel quite similar to everyone else. It's that frustration of the way it's been managed. It kind of feels like, you know, at the start of the horror movie or something, and then like the characters walk in the room and the TV's going on and something's going on, and then it just goes to pot. That's how it feels. Like, you feel anxious, you feel a bit more anxious because you don't know what's going to happen. I could understand why the lockdowns had to happen, because obviously with the cases rising, and obviously in winter, in terms of people dying from pneumonia and flu, other flu illnesses, it goes up, and the demand on the NHS will be increased like it was in before the first lockdown. And I think my better half likes to think that the government have done this lockdown to make sure that the NHS is able to cope with the demand.
It will reduce the number of patients going in, won't it? It will save in that respect. Yeah,
that's all I hope. But my the cynical side is thinking, like, it's that frustration, the way it was managed. It's I've said it before that this government has been very reactive rather than proactive. I'm not surprised that there's a second lockdown, because obviously after the first lockdown, the numbers did reduce, but it was still active, and people were just going out, help to eat out, and certain stuff.
Help out, yeah.
Yes, so certain stuff that they've done, and the countries followed the advice, and it's ended up, I don't know, we're back in the same situation. So that's where the frustration goes for. And I think, you know, it feels like, you know, we're always taught to learn from our mistakes, and it feels like it's happening again. I think if Boris had the foresight to say, okay, we're reducing it, we're doing the lockdown to reduce the numbers, we could live with that. If it rises again, these are the actions we're going to do. It's even stuff like what happens after September the 2nd. What could have been said? It's maybe if the cases go down by maybe the 23rd of November, in 3 weeks' time, and we'll make a decision there whether there's a gradual lifting of restrictions and stuff like that. We can live with it because we feel like the leaders are actually leading.
But he won't make promises like that you can measure against, will he? That's the thing.
Yeah, and for me, that's the problem. So I think I know it's quite a difficult thing to say, but I could only control what I can do. All I do is I've got quite a really boring life at the moment, and it's I just go to work, do my shopping. The thing that's hit me the most is not being able to socialize with my friends, with you guys, and even going down to London.
Get down to good times.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I've not known anyone to get COVID, so I feel quite, you know, blessed and touch wood. Hope that continues and everyone's just healthy. But it's just, we just got to get on with it, and that's all we can do. Just get on with it, and then just see what happens.
Fortunately, I've in this second period, I have known quite a lot of people that have had COVID. You know, some close family members, some further apart, or just sort of a friend. You know, so I've known quite a lot of people actually this time round. Not necessarily that I've been in contact with, but my brother actually got it twice.
Whoa.
Yeah, positive for COVID twice. So the whole herd immunity thing's doesn't really have legs, does it?
Yeah, it's gone too far.
And it's so strange, you know. He's a healthy young man. He works from home. He's not really exposed a lot. just got it twice, doing within the rules what everything that you do. But I don't know whether that means certain people are more susceptible. It's a sort of strange one, really. But no one's been seriously ill, and Max and I have both been well and free of the old COVID. So that's a blessing, isn't it?
Yeah. No, thank you, Rich. Thanks for your take on that. And back to you, Sarah. I've got another question for you around lockdown 2.0. Would you say it's right that so many businesses have had to close their doors again, or is there another approach that the government could have taken this time?
This is a really tough one, isn't it? I mean, you look at councils like Liverpool. Was it Liverpool? Liverpool conceded to lockdowns, I think, immediately. It was Manchester, wasn't it?
Manchester.
And I know that Leeds Council were in a battle for quite a period of time before we were going to go into tier 3.
Yeah.
I think the reality is the arts, tourism, leisure industry is absolutely it's absolutely on its arse, really. And therefore, in order to put those businesses into lockdown and to shut those businesses down, the only fair and appropriate way to do it is with serious support, funding and investment in how we reevaluate the arts. And obviously, the whole retrain, reboot, rethink that was incredibly insulting to a lot of people. I think if lockdown is required, and by the way, I believe that Boris Johnson will go kicking and screaming about he wouldn't want it. That's the thing. They don't actually. I know that people get quite dubious of the government, like I'm the first to do that. I think the reality is his hand is forced into this lockdown because they do want life to go on as normal as much as possible. But what they've not done is not supporting the businesses through that period in an appropriate way. If the businesses were fully supported, I think everyone would accept that if the people and the businesses and the livelihoods were fully supported, I think people would accept lockdown a hell of a lot more than the fact that they're not supported. Mental health is becoming a problem. Financially, people are struggling more than ever before. No one's into, if I think that personally, I think if the business needs to shut, it needs to shut, and that would be based on science. So I don't have a personal opinion other than what the science recommends on that. But I think the government have been very, very shoddy in supporting people whose livelihood has gone potentially forever.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think you said there might have been people who've started businesses for 20, 30 years and may have been struggling even before lockdown, and are thinking, okay, lockdown 1's happened. I might have been supported a little bit here. Okay, lockdown 2, I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive now. I mean, I've had to make people redundant.
We've just scraped by 6 months. We're just getting back up on our feet again, not even breaking even, and now we're going into lockdown again. But I don't think the question is necessarily like lockdown or not lockdown. I think the question is, if lockdown, how do we support our people? Like, if lockdown has to happen at multiple periods over the next couple of years, who knows? Then there must be a support in place, a support vehicle in place, that's more, that's better than what exists at the moment for these businesses. So it's hard to answer. No one wants them shut. If they have to be shut, they should be. But if that's the case, then they should be supported a hell of a lot more than they are right now.
I agree. No, thank you, Sarah, on that. Si, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, similar to Sarah, and it's if it has to be done to bring the R rate down, to prevent as many people being infected and then leading on to hospital admissions and reduce the pressure on the NHS, then it needs to be done. But again, it's the way they've gone about it. And look at self-employed people, for example. The message they're getting is that them and their businesses aren't worth as much as other businesses because they don't get the same support. They don't even get the 80% furlough. But why?
That's me. I'm in that camp.
Yeah. And exactly. And it's like, well, but why? Because you do a job the same as somebody who goes and works in, you know, in a retail store, in a clothes shop. It's, you know, it's a job, it's your livelihood, it's the way you make a living, it's the way you pay your bills, which again puts money into the economy. And it's that short-sightedness, again, going back to what, you know, Rich mentioned earlier, that they've been reactive rather than proactive. And over summer they had this time, instead of, you know, having the Parliament recess for this summer, they should not have had the recess. They should have really worked on putting things in place, because they knew full well, you know, you heard things coming out about a potential second wave, it's winter, it's flu season. They knew full well what was going to happen, but they didn't take the opportunity again to put solid plans in place to protect people and people's livelihoods. And I think that's what a lot of people are angry about, because again, yeah, we've been open a few months, and we're going to have to close again, and we might not survive a second lockdown if it goes on anywhere near as long as the first one. And it's just so unfair on the people. And not only that, that's also going to have a knock-on effect for a longer period on the economy, because there'll be more unemployed, there'll be less money going into the economy through business rates, taxes. So it's just,
I think it's because it's always such a hard attempt. You know, in France at the moment, they went into lockdown basically the same weekend as us, pretty much. You have to get a note to leave the house. It's like, it's seriously intense lockdown, completely different to the UK. My friend was about to move there and she can't go at the moment. But you literally can't even hardly leave your house. I'm not saying I prefer that. I'm just saying they're doing lockdown, but schools are open. A lot of workplaces are open, public transport's still open, and there's been a massive caseload of cases in first buses in Leeds, you know, so. And
it's the messages you get from that, isn't it, as well, because the subtleties in Boris's language last Saturday, which was it was again, work from home if you can. It wasn't a directive, you need to work from home. So it's, again, it's called lockdown 2.0, but it's not a complete lockdown again, and I'm not saying it should be, but it's
inconsistent.
It's the messages that come from, you know, it's okay for these to be open, but it's not okay for these to be open. I
totally agree on that. Rich, what's your thoughts on this?
Do you know what, it's just frustrating, because at the end of the day, it's like they're doing the bare minimum. That's how it feels. And there needs to be something more direct. Like, it feels wishy-washy with the rules, and people getting confused. It's like they shut the difference between this lockdown and last lockdown is that the pubs, I think pubs, gyms have closed, as far as I'm not too sure. But
they have.
But when I go out to work, I've seen a slight reduction of people going out. But if you can work from home, it should have been the case. If you can work from home, work from home. And that's it, rather than if you can, it's these, as Simon was saying, it's not direct enough. And I don't think, and it shows his qualities as a leader, that he's not able to even get people to follow his lead. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you had someone like, I don't know, if another, you know, here we go, it's like the if I could have scenario. But if you had maybe a leader that kind of inspired you, that didn't have the past that Boris has, you would have been more inclined to follow his lead. The problem is,
trust me, if Jeremy Corbyn was leading the country right now, I'd be like, okay, I trust that you care about people. I believe that you care about people. Therefore, I believe you're acting with our best interest. No one thinks that about Boris. Nobody thinks that. He cares about us, about you, about you. No one thinks that, do they? So we're just always gonna be cynical, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to kind of his, like, the leadership. And as Simon was saying before, it's like they're trying to sneak Brexit through the back door. and it's just, it's very, something doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right that some businesses can stay open and other businesses can't. It's very, it's like the bigger companies, and I understand because they pump so much revenue into the economy, and the government are able to get the taxes and stuff from them. But if you're a small business, you should be supported. Like, the MPs, the Prime Minister, they're elected. They're there to represent us, and us as the people are saying that we need support, and it's not being given. These people haven't been just gifted this. We've let them be there. So
yeah,
I find it so wild that businesses are not getting the support. Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it's just very frustrating to watch this. So yeah, I'm gonna go off topic. So I'm gonna censor myself. So yeah.
No worries, Rich. Thanks. And yeah, I think I kind of all agree with all points you guys have raised there around this. I think yeah, the government's approach and what they've taken on this, it's been very woolly, in all fairness. And I think the stance, the company I work for, I mean, we've got the facility where it's COVID safe. So for my options is for my own well-being, I want to be able to work from an office where I can support the users who are coming in the office because of my role, and also lead the team because of my role as well, to make sure that they're comfortable working in their office environment because of the nature of how we have to do our work. So yeah, we've had to kind of follow the guidelines. We have to handle equipment with care. We have to kind of approach and work socially distance at desks. So it has been very, very tricky for us. But I think we've just had to, as you said, it's just very woolly, really. And with what's happened with businesses closing again, I can see there's going to be obviously a massive amount of poverty happening over the next few months, or even so now. To be fair, it's probably already happening, where people are struggling big time to survive at home, paying for the.
I can't help but say it. Like, I hate to always bring it round to these topics, but I'm always going to use words like class and capitalism. But it is a real class issue. If you can stay at home and work, do it. Yeah, well, a lot of jobs, there's no reality for that. If you can avoid public transport, avoid it. Well, yeah, well, what if you don't have any money, or you don't drive and you rely on public transport? There's all these kind of things where some people are in the firing line, others aren't. And some people are on, or the front line, you might say, or at risk, at exposure, and others aren't. And I do think it just continues to it's just going to continue to polarize in the way that those that are protected are somewhat fine. They can, a lot of people can work from home, still get the income. They're not spending as much money. Some people actually feel okay, and then you've got people that have lost their entire livelihood, and they've got children they can't feed. They can't feed the children. So I just think the whole distribution of support through this pandemic has been very unequal, and it's also highlighted existing inequalities as well.
Definitely, 100%, 100%. I have another question. This is obviously around the lockdown 2.0, and I want to say, for this obviously second lockdown, is there anything, I suppose this is to you, Sarah, that you're planning to do differently, or already doing differently this time round?
Oh dear. Well, I would say that I follow the rules for the most part, because I don't have a workplace, or really, I'm not going out and about that much, so therefore my general world has been quite small. However, I will be going for walks daily, and it's possible I might accidentally bump into someone on a walk.
Yeah.
That's the level of what's going to be different for me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to I'm going to be a sensible person at all times. But I don't know, living on my own especially, of course I've got my child, Max. I can't see me not popping and getting a coffee and having a little chat with the guy there and just trying to have some sense of normality around social interactions, even on this, at distance, appropriately. But meaning in the first lockdown, when it first started, I took it very seriously. And I really did feel quite isolated and locked down. And now I'll be making decisions off my own judgment versus the actual formal rules. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here. No, don't come and get me. I'm not be having waves. Don't worry about that. I won't be having illegal parties in the house. But I'm not really bothered about the rules in the sense of like the rules themselves. I will try to abide by them. I don't necessarily think they all make sense or I should. So in some circumstances, such as going to my mum's for Christmas or something, that's going to happen. I don't, I don't actually care when it comes to Christmas Day and whatever the rules are, it's very unlikely that I'm going to sit on my own in my house, just me and my son, and not engage in Christmas. I can't see it. So as sensible and serious as I genuinely am, I think that's an attitude change that I have had because of everything we've been through.
Yeah.
I'm sure that I'm not alone, like feeling that, I'll do my best, but I'm a realistic person.
Rich, what's your thoughts around this? What do you plan to do differently or already doing differently this time around? Anything different?
I'm just going to live my life, man. That's it. I think the first lockdown, Kate, like my girlfriend, my daughter, they stayed away because I was continuously working. So I think that they're gonna stay, and I think we're just gonna enjoy it. I think we'll just enjoy it more. I know it sounds weird and very crazy about it, but we done the first one. Come on, let's bring on the second one. Like I feel like there was a big amount of uncertainty with the first one because we didn't know how it was going to change, but because we're quite familiar with the changes and we know it's not like a complete lockdown like the first one, I think I'll handle it with a bit more positively. I think obviously walking in the park and stuff like that and playing out is because of the weather, and I don't like the cold weather. Like it's like I look outside now, I went shopping, it was just foggy, and it's like, nah, I'm not going out.
Richard, there's no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothes.
Yeah.
Not if you're rich.
Nah.
Layer up.
Nah, no. I remember the amount of times, Simon, you tried to get me to go to Carnival and it rained, and I was like, no, I'm not going. It's not happening. Not happening, mate. Like I work during the nights and it is freezing out there, so I'm not putting myself through that cold weather. You're mad. No. No way. No, sorry, Bob. But yeah.
So you're going to be having full-on cozy, festive vibes over lockdown, basically. Cozy, in the home.
Yeah. Watch a couple of rom-coms. I'm good, man. I can't wait, man.
Marshmallows upon an open fire as well, Rich?
Yeah, do you know what? Because I got my fire pit in it. So you're laughing like it's a joke. I got my fire pit.
No, it's not a joke.
Oh, that's a good idea, man.
We'll fire pit all
the most of it.
Yeah.
What do you say?
They're really good.
Nice fire pit. Get some logs on. Yeah, man.
It's giving you a few ideas there.
Yeah, man. Safe.
Roasted chestnuts. You never know. You could even do some of them.
Roasted chestnuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what? Our tree now has got acorns. It's growing acorns. So yeah, we might do that. Yeah. Safe, man. Podcast is doing it, man. It's inspiration.
Yeah, you roast your acorns, Rich.
Oh no!
You have to be different. You have to be different.
Simon's not roasting acorns by the sounds of it.
No.
Oh gosh.
Hashtag me too.
Anything
How
that
many
you would
workplaces are going to miss the Christmas work night out this year, though, for real? Like, people live all year for that.
I mean, we used to have them at our work, but yeah, that's kind of like
you're going to do big celebrations, Jess?
Yeah, we already had it cancelled months ago. even when first lockdown happened, it was
You
like,
lot
yep,
hurt, Jez.
we had an instant. No, this isn't happening. It's
Yeah.
cancelled. Which is fair play. It's, as you said, they don't want to be risking it, and said it's a gathering of hundreds of people. It's too much of a risk. They were going to not go ahead with it anyway. And plus, I don't think the venues would have allowed them anyway. To be honest, a lot of the hospitality venues probably aren't even allowing big gatherings of parties. And to be honest, I don't if there is no change to lockdown 2, which we don't know what happens on December the 2nd. The government might say, okay, we're going to have to extend this now throughout Christmas. So anybody who's thinking of parties, there's no party. There's no party outside of the clubs or anything. That's going to be
work party, yeah.
Yeah, at the end of work parties is no more, shall we say?
I do miss dancing, though. I must admit, I've really tried to stay positive, even with like change to work and money and this and that, and not miss seeing people. Oh, I miss dancing. Oh God, because like you can dance at home, obviously, but it's not the same as a dark room.
To be fair, it's been a long time since I put my dancing shoes on.
It's not the same as a dark room, getting sweaty. And I can't tell you how much I've missed it. Honestly, it's really like I don't know.
I feel your pain. I feel your pain, Sarah. I mean, for me, having them dancing shoes on, it's been a long time. You know what I mean? Since I've been able to get my swag on the dance floor.
Just save them up, Jez. Save them up.
Saving up for a big one. Hopefully, 40th in a few years. That's when.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be allowed out by then.
Oh my God, my 40th is in a few years too. Hopefully by then we can actually do a big thing. Because you and I are in the same week as well, Jez.
Oh, it is. Yes, definitely. So, I think me and Si have already addressed plans for the 40th. Where to go? I think we're going to do something big.
This is how far ahead we have to plan now.
Planning ahead, there you go. Yeah, a few years ahead. Yeah.
Oh yes, ready. I remember us discussing it. I just remembered. Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely. Rich, I know you're down for it, so.
Yeah, man.
Don't forget.
Course, man. Bogle time, man.
Going back to Si, anything differently you would do?
This is going to grow to a massive party by the time you actually do it. You heard it here first on the RT first ever YouTube video. 4 years down the line, or 5 years, whatever it is, it'll have turned into this massive thing because no one's been out for so long. We're all looking forward to Jenny's 40th.
It'll probably be announced on the podcast as well when we get to like season 10 or something. It'll be like, look.
Red.
Si, is there anything you would do differently? Anything differently you would do during this, or are you doing differently at this time?
Not really, no, because we just, Mrs. Selkirk and I have kind of just continued what. The only thing that was slightly different, you could book a few weeks in advance and go to a restaurant, go for a meal, or go to a bar for a couple of hours like we did. That was the only different thing, we could do. But aside from that, we've just continued the same things all the way through from the first lockdown into this one. It's just, kind of used to it. It doesn't make it any easier, but you're just used to it. It's just a bit of it's a new routine. So, it's just the routine now. It's not new anymore. It's just what we do. And same with routines at work. Like I always tell my staff, it's nowhere can be completely COVID safe. But if you've done everything you can to reduce the likelihood of potentially passing it on, even if somebody catches it or whatever, in your own mind that you've done all you can to try and prevent that from happening. And I think Sarah said that word, being sensible, just being sensible about it. And that's all everyone can do, and it's just be sensible, do everything you can to protect others and yourselves.
Wear a mask. Personally, I wear a mask. And I think it's a simple solution to a lot of problems.
Because the mask is to protect other people. It's not to protect you. It's to protect other people. Yeah. So, and it's just that having, empathy for other people and thinking, if you can wear a mask, if there's reasons you can't, then that's fine. But if you can, it's not for that long in reality when you're in shops, if you're going shopping or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just be mindful of other people. But yeah, there's not really anything that's changed since the first one, really.
Agree. Nice. Well, thank you, Si. Thank you on that. And moving on to the next topic, we're going to talk about free school meals.
Oh yeah,
And
we should.
yeah, I think this is it's kind of a big topic it's kind of reminiscent as well from memories from my childhood when I used to be on free school meals at not only
I always had free school dinners too.
primary school, high school, and seeing what Marcus Rashford, Sarah, I don't know if you've heard of him. You probably heard about him and what he's trying to campaign and lead. He's been leading it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think
Yeah.
he's an absolute legend.
Yeah, he's not only been doing this
So
campaign actually
I think
around
Marcus
free school
Rashford.
meals. Sorry, you go ahead, Sarah. It's all right.
Yeah, I think he's. I'm sorry, Jez, you were a bit delayed then. I apologise for. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just going to mention around what he's been leading. Really, he's been leading a campaign, has he, for a number of months, I think now, for children receiving free school meals, to get these during like school holidays. The government, which I don't understand, well, there's probably one reason I understand why, but they continue to be under pressure to kind of obviously make a U-turn on the refusal to agree to obviously him leading this and kind of force the hand so they can actually allow children to be fed. People who are struggling, even during these times now of poverty, out of work, not on much money from furlough, and the increase in redundancies and all those things that can add up and weigh up as well going forward, which is probably we know is extended to March next year. I suppose this is a question for you, Sarah, as well. Do you feel free school meals should be given to children during school holidays, particularly in light of lockdown 2? And what is your thoughts on this currently?
This is an immediate yes to that. I think that there is absolutely no reason, not even within the school's context, just within society, there is absolutely no reason why any child should go hungry in our society, in our country. It doesn't need to happen, and it should never happen. So I think it should be extended, given the current circumstances of the fact that so many people are unemployed and the times are so hard for everyone. So I think it should be extended anyway. But I also think, on a bigger picture, it's disgusting that this work even needs to be done. Food bank usage has gone up over austerity in general over the past 10 years. Marcus Rashford's amazing in the sense that at a young age in his career, he's really putting his neck out on the line in terms of potential, just in the terms of even just the way football's run and stuff. Like, it's still very brave, I think, at such a young stage in his career to be so vocal in a political environment. And he reminds me, like, the fact that he's campaigning for free school meals. If you think about Black Panthers in the 60s in America, that one of the linchpins and the sort of foundational aspects of their party and their movement was breakfast clubs for kids, and bridging the gap in the state, the bridging the gap that the state's not provided the meals for the children. That was one of the major parts of the growth of their movement, was food feeding kids. And I think it's a bloody indictment that, however many years, 60 years later, in another sort of, we're not in America, we're in the UK, but in another kind of economically successful Western country, and we're still fighting over feeding kids. If anything at all can tell you that the system's broken, that the fact that we've grown in output GDP, we've grown economically, we've had so-called success under neoliberal governments like Labour, like Tony Blair, so-called success of growth of the output of our country, it doesn't trickle down, which is what, it doesn't mean that children are fed. And I think it's just proof that it's broken. And I think it's disgusting. Honestly, this topic is so emotive for so many of us, isn't it? No child ever, no person, but certainly no child should ever go hungry and we are a rich country. We are a very rich country in comparison to other countries around the world. And it's just, it's outrageous. It's outrageous.
I think it's
Sorry.
ridiculous. No,
But I
it's,
can't answer that question any
Don't be sorry,
differently.
Sarah. Don't
no,
be
you
sorry.
don't need to be sorry on that. All you know, what I mean, what you're saying is absolutely spot on. It always made me wonder. I don't know if you obviously remember from high school that when you used to see kids that were on obviously school dinners, they used to always say, "Oh, well, I'm getting mine paid." You know what I mean? I'm paying for mine because my mum and dad earn more money. It's like, yeah, but my mum doesn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's a single mum.
It becomes a personalised
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah,
it shouldn't be. It should
Mm.
be a basic right of all citizens
Yeah,
to be fed.
yeah.
It shouldn't
Mm.
be like, oh, you're less than
yeah,
because
yeah,
you need certain kind of support. And I think that was a big problem in the way we grew up. If we're talking about the 80s, 90s, 2000s, this like neoliberal project that basically means that if you're poor, it's your own fault kind of thing. That
It
was
almost like
that
they
was
tell
the
you that.
rhetoric that we grew up with, I believe, in the 80s. Maybe not the 80s, more the 90s, 2000s.
Yeah.
The idea was everyone can succeed if they just work hard enough. Therefore, if you're poor, it's your own fault. And so there was a stigma, I think, attached to council housing, free school meals, all these things. When I don't know whether that still exists. I don't know to what level that still exists, but I'm sure it absolutely does.
Yeah.
For kids. But it just shouldn't be. I mean, it should be a very basic. Give every kid a free meal. So what?
Yeah.
Like, do you know how much money they're spending on ridiculous projects like HS2?
Half of that could have gone to school meals. It would have fed every child in.
It's costing every household thousands of pounds, each to get some toffs, exec from Leeds to London half an hour faster, even if it even does. It's been billion. It's such an expensive project.
Yeah.
So the money's there. The money is there. They just don't want to feed kids. You've got to ask yourself why.
It isn't, and it's the strange one for me because out of 39 school weeks of the year, they feel that children need and parents need support with their children's lunches. But for 13 weeks of the year, when they're not at school, they feel that they don't need that. But why? What's different? In fact, it should be the opposite way. More so they need it when they're not at school because they don't have all that other support. They don't have that 6.5 hours a day support when they're not at school.
Yeah.
So what's
breaks
different?
My heart that a child could go hungry in England, in any country. But the fact that it doesn't need, the fact that the money is there and they can vote to make sure it doesn't happen, it's beyond belief, isn't it?
It is beyond belief.
Yeah. And
all the community came out though, right? Like the amount of businesses that said, "Here you are," like. They shouldn't. It shouldn't have to be the case. Marcus Rashford should be focusing on his career. Unfortunately, he has a calling, and that calling is to raise awareness of a very real issue that exists in society.
Yeah, and I think it kind of tied it to his upbringing, didn't it? Yeah, he tied it to his upbringing. He did mention a story around how he was brought up and the poverty he had growing up as a youth, and he kind of related. He said, "I don't want this to happen to children growing up. Why should they suffer? We can help here." And I said he's coming out, setting his own time to go out there and make something happen, make a change really. And yeah, hopefully, he said the government listen on this because people are campaigning all over to try and spread this message. So Boris and the men in power have, the authority.
It just shows. I'm sorry to say it. Sorry to say it, but it just shows you how awful the Tories are that so many of them voted voted against it. Like, come on, like, what are you doing? They just don't even want to pretend to be half decent anymore, do they?
And it doesn't wash the argument that a lot of them give. We've given an extra 20 quid a week or whatever they're claiming in universal credit, but
it's not even the point.
And some people it'll be, do I choose, particularly this time of year, to have my home warm for my children, or do they need to skip a meal? What's that? And they're not taking into account, what a lot of people and the criticisms are flying all over social media. Oh well, I feed my kids and this and that. Why are people not feeding them? It's like, well, if it's a parent with an addiction, their addiction becomes above everything else. That's not the child's fault.
It's not the child's
If it's
fault, is it?
if it's a parent with a mental health issue, that's not the child's fault. But if they have a voucher, or even if it was a food hamper that was delivered, it's there. The food's there. You know, it's not going to be spent on whatever they might be addicted to if they have an addiction, or they might not have to make that choice then, or do I heat my house up, or do I feed my children at lunchtime, or shall I just feed them at breakfast and tea time? The food's there for them, and like Sarah said, it's a basic human right, and it doesn't cost much, and it's children, it's our future.
Especially the disgusting level of waste that we see at landfill of food. This is the issue we have. We have mass waste and indulgence and excessive consumption on one end of the spectrum. You know, and that's all of us. We all overconsume and indulge to a certain extent. It's the way that life is run. And then at the same time, you've got a lack of basic needs on a different end of the spectrum. And it's just like, come on, like, again, it's redistributing it. And why would you want for the children of the future to be hungry? How is that in any way beneficial to anybody?
But that's the frustrating thing. It's the people who are voting on it have probably, well, they won't ever have experienced that. They probably won't know anyone that's ever had to experience that. Nobody in their family has, because they come from wealthy backgrounds. But they're the ones that are making that decision. That, you know, people who need the food, they're deciding, oh, sorry, you can't have it for 13 weeks a year. We're okay to give it to you for 39 weeks a year. Oh, and some have just gone, we'll give it to you for those 6 weeks, but we're not going to give it to you any other time. And it's just, it doesn't make sense. Well, it makes sense. It makes sense in the way that, like I said, they've never experienced it. They don't know what it's like. They don't know what hardship's like.
And they blame the individual. Even,
exactly.
you know, mentioning things like addictions and mentioning things like, you know, like actually, you know, there's also working people that are struggling to feed children, especially on 80% of their income or wherever it might be. I think that it's got to such a difficult stage where it's a much larger percentage of people than we probably realise struggle for meals on a regular basis.
Well, in the new academic year, there was, I think, around 900,000 more children that needed free school meals than there were prior to the lockdown. And then, so there's more people that need it, but they're not giving them the help they need during the school holidays. And it's pretty scandalous. It really is.
Rich, I
don't know how they can think they can get away with it without it being quite radical. Yeah, Richard, sorry.
No, nothing.
I can see his face is gone.
No. Are we surprised? Are we surprised?
No.
Are we surprised? Because the people that we've elected, and I use that word, that they have been elected to represent us, of doing a piss poor job of representing us. Excuse the language. Because how is it? But how is it that the people are saying, look, how much taxes are we all paying? How much council taxes are we paying? How much money are we pumping into this economy? And you're going to try to tell me, I want it to be the case that no child goes hungry. So if I have to get taxed an extra £1, if you're saying you ain't got the money, which is a lie, you know, and that's what's insulting. You say you haven't got the money, and it's like, okay, I can take that. But if it meant me paying an extra £1 in tax every month, I'm willing to do it. They're saying they can't. It's not that they can't, they won't.
Spent more on Eat Out to Help Out. They spent more on failed track and trace. They spent more on failed procurement of PPE. It's outrageous, isn't it? Oh, has Richard gone somewhere?
He's vanished.
Oh my gosh, how spooky.
He's vanished. He vanished without trace. Hopefully he'll be back.
The frustrating thing is he'll be back. He does it every so often, doesn't he? Like Houdini. The frustrating thing is, I think they've had to now, because they've been forced, particularly over the free school meals, that amidst all this, the MPs are going to get a £3,000 pay rise.
Oh, no! Oh
now,
God!
I think they've been
The
forced to
hypocrisy.
freeze that now, but that's only because of the uproar over the refusal to fund the free school meals during holidays. Just saying, Rich, that the MPs were due to get a £3,000 pay rise per
That's
person.
good. They've earned it. They've earned it.
But I think only because of the furor over the free school meals, that decision's been frozen for now.
What do you mean? Okay, who, any of us, have we got a pay rise? Has many people got a significant pay rise that's been above?
The pay,
Jeff Bezos has got a significant pay rise.
It's an absolute joke. And when they're in the houses in common, when houses of laws, and when they're voting for these things, they've got access to a buffet, they've got access to a bar. If they had the hindsight and the common sense, they'll bring their own lunches in and feed maybe the local schools around the areas in London, because especially in London, you could travel 15 minutes in London and you go from £1 million houses to a council estate. But again, it just shows the disconnect that the MPs have with the people that they're meant to represent. So, I'm not going to speak too much on it because I don't want to swear too much and get myself angry and upset, but it's an absolute joke that you are resisting to feed children. It's not
that's what it is.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
100%.
And so overwhelmingly, such a large number that it makes you think, well, what is the strategic decision there? Because you haven't all gone into that room and then independently chosen that way. There's a strategic decision to not feed children. And you think, that's where the sort of questions start coming in, as to say, well, what are you trying to create here? What are you trying to do?
It's just.
So you see, the next election, we vote people out. That's what we do, and that's just why I keep saying we've got to engage in the political system more. Like, let's not even. We look at what the candidates stand for. We go to the MP meetings and we ask them, what is your view on free, and what is your view on certain politics? And if their politics and their philosophies do not agree with you, please do not vote for them. And that is how you send a message that we are not going to stand for it anymore, because it's an absolute joke. Because I could understand if they said, okay, to feed the children, we'll tax everyone £1 more in their taxes to pay for it. But they've literally said, no, we can't do it. It's not they can't, they won't do it. And it's just, it just gets you so vexed. And
but it's not surprising you said, innit? As you said, it's not surprising. It's almost like it wasn't on their thought process to even consider it.
And I think there's spent that many years beating down the resistance, and that many years squashing the kind of general public pushback through decades of austerity. And then now we're in a COVID environment where we can't get on the streets, really, and so they know that they are largely going to go unquestioned, even from the likes of Kia. They're going to go unchallenged, unquestioned by the people. We can moan about it, but the reality is, where is the mass uprising? Why are we not all on the streets about Corbyn? Why are we not all on the streets about children? I mean, the reality is, it's because we're all absolutely exhausted, skinned, knackered, and we don't want to get COVID, and they know it. So they'll keep making these decisions, like, the way they treat refugees. I mean, they'll keep doing it.
It's really, really, well, we have to, I suppose, from our viewpoint, we just hope the Marcus Rashford campaign continues, the message is strong, and eventually, you said, we'll see if anything changes over the next few months.
We'll change.
We'll have to see how it pans out, on there. But, Sarah, I've got a question for you as well. Around
supporting families, and it's really beautiful to see.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Just going on to activities and causes, Sarah. I know you're involved with quite a few various different causes and activities. Is there any advice you can give to people as to how they can get involved with these?
Yeah, I think obviously everyone has things that move them and motivate them in different ways. So it's certainly not for me to sort of speak to like what causes to get involved with. I have a bit of a kind of umbrella thing about, you know, I oppose oppression of any people, the land, the animals. And so I'm, you know, climate activist, anti-racist activist, predominantly anti-capitalist, all those radical things that, you know, the Tories want to call terrorism. But yeah, there's a few different organisations in Leeds. Given the topic that we've been talking about tonight, and we couldn't help getting a bit political tonight, given the topic, I guess. But one of the groups that I'm involved with in Leeds that's quite helpful during the COVID period is called People Before Profit, and it's like an action group, and it's made up of trade unions and MP. Well, I know actually there's no formal official MPs on there, but it's made up of trade unions and the people essentially. But there's a doctor on there who gives us a medical update every week. There's someone on there that reports on the buses. There's someone on there, and so on. And it's quite helpful. That's called People Before Profit. That organisation in the Leeds group as something I helped to set, you know, helped to organise at the start of COVID. I think that organisation will grow in terms of supporting communities, not just in Leeds. I mean nationally, and they have a whole kind of plan of action. But then that's a recent thing, obviously, given it's been in response to the times. I'm involved in Extinction Rebellion for climate side of things. So I recently was in Manchester for the Manchester Rebellion. That was the like northern version of what was happening back in, I've lost track of the months, but it wasn't that long ago, like September, I think. And there was a few things happened in Leeds, all socially distanced and done as best as, you know, as possible. Stand Up to Racism is where I predominantly get involved with anti-racist kind of work, but also there's Black Lives Matter Leeds, obviously, as well, that's been significantly important in the more current Black Lives Matter movements in terms of anti-racism in Leeds. So there's multiple places that you can get involved. I'm also involved with a couple of refugee charities. There's Care for Calais. They're actually having a donation on the, when will this be live? This
Hopefully
show?
in a couple of days.
Oh, right, yeah. So on I think it's the 18th of November, you can do drop-offs in Leeds City Centre for Care for Calais for donations to go over to refugees in Calais. And then there's an organisation called the Moonlight Trust, which is a West Yorkshire-based refugee charity as well. So I'm involved in all these different things. The advice to other people getting involved is obviously being involved in that many things has grown over years. So obviously be realistic to yourself about what time you can give up, because obviously I appreciate that everyone's really busy. There's things you can do from home. So, you know, things that you can do from home, like Richard said about becoming more engaged in the political dynamics, I suppose. You know, there's petitions, very, very simple. And I think all of us have signed a petition or two. There's writing to your MP that has a surprising impact in terms of them being able to go to Parliament with their constituents' views, you know. So the more people that do that, the more they recognise. And if they get a certain number of letters, they have to raise it in Parliament. So, you know, you can find out your local MP's address and their voting records online, and then you can simply write to them with anything that, you know, for example, free school meals. You know, we could all write to our MPs about that. The more they get, the more they can push that forth in their arguments and in their debates. So petitions, and obviously writing letters to your MPs. But then there's, you know, just go online to Leeds Stand Up to Racism or Extinction Rebellion or any of these organisations, and it's pretty clear how to get involved. I think you just want to start small and with a minimal amount of commitment, but I do think it helps you to feel less stressed about. People do ask me, you know, like, you know, how do you manage to do all these things with like living a normal kind of life? The reality is the stress that the world puts on us, all you guys, everyone, is really overwhelming for most of us. If we want a life of, you know, a society of equality, I think we all feel that stress of that. And I think doing any kind of activism or resistance kind of work does mean that you are responding to your own feelings about the injustices in the world. And actually, it's on a personal level, it's really important that you get to recognise your role in democracy. So I think everyone could explore that a little bit more, but the world's very tough and people don't have a lot of time, so I understand that. So just, you know, focus on the fight that matters to you most, whether it's trans rights, Black Lives Matter, refugee, the climate, you know, all of these things have important, you know, value. But I do encourage everyone to kind of just dip their toes a little bit more into what's happening in the communities around them. Because even though we really don't have time, all of us, to do anything, that's the capitalist machine, and we're not meant to have time to think about these things. We're all exhausted and stressed out and pissed off. But honestly, it does start to help you answer some of the questions and like address it in your own heart, like the feelings that you have about the world around you can actually be tackled by being involved in some of these things.
No, that's great, Sarah. Well, I do appreciate all the work and that you're doing for these causes. I know you've been heavily involved some of the campaigns, especially the one where you went to Calais, and that was really amazing for the work you did there and going down.
Oh, thank you. That was important because I've been talking about refugees are welcome here for so long that I had to go and bear witness to the reality of the situation there, you know.
Yeah, no, it's really appreciated on that.
But anyone can get in touch with me, by the way, as well. If anyone actually wants to genuinely, like, if I can give any contacts or links, or, you know, I can give you anything you need like that. And, you know, I'm always happy to like chat with people. It doesn't have to start, it just can be a small thing. Everyone's impact is so powerful, so important. Really, all we need to all do is come together as much as possible.
Agree. Totally agree on that. Now, thank you, Sarah.
One small thing can make a big difference, can't it? That's the thing. If lots of people do a small thing collectively, that can make a big difference.
Huge difference, yeah. Agreed. Moving on to the special bulletin news that we had recently, which is got everybody with a nice, beautiful smile on their face. So, yes, the US presidential election results were finalized. I think they were finalised not so long ago, to be honest. I think.
Yeah, they've almost finalised, but a winner's.
A winner's imminent, very imminent. I think it's been declared. And Joe Biden, well done, congratulations, you've made it as the presidential candidate and been announced as president of the United States, and also the first female vice president, Kamala Harris. She's also been. Obviously, the first female as a vice president.
First female Black VP, I think.
Yeah, and Black as well. Yeah, Black VP. So that's amazing news. And yeah, change, as you said, Mr. Trump, goodbye.
Mr. Trump, you don't get in the bin.
Yeah. Mr. Biden, welcome. And as you said, the United States is such a big country. They have so much power and influence over the world on changes that happen, whether globally. And shall I say internationally, they do. And we've seen, heard, and listened at times Mr. Trump's views over the 4 years. Don't really have any words to say on them. I'm sure you guys are very similar on those. And I think he's, it's been a bit funny based on what we've seen recently on throwing his dummies out of the pram, but what can we say? It's his nature.
Delusional narcissist, isn't he? He's a delusional sociopathic narcissist, to be totally honest. But he's also a representation of the misogyny, the racism, the hatred, the sexism, the homophobia that does exist in our societies and in America. So today they celebrate, but tomorrow, got a massive mountain to climb.
Yeah, there's a lot of work Joe's got to do to and Kamala. And we wish them all the best, really, I suppose, from overseas. And you said it's a change that's been imminent. I think with what's been happening over there, the riots, the oppression, the increase of oppression over there with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. I don't even want to list. The name goes beyond and before that because it's been happening for so long and nothing's happened and changed. We're hoping now there's going to be a change coming, and I think the influencers. I'd like to say I think a big shout out to Stacey Abrams in America. She's been one of the leading kind of like campaigners for voting and allowing black people to vote, especially in Georgia, where I think
There's
they
been
needed.
the highest number of votes,
Yeah.
I'm sure, ever.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, Biden
is
got
that
the
right?
highest.
I don't want to be.
Yeah, Biden got the highest number
Yeah.
of votes ever, and Trump in this election got the second highest number of votes ever.
Yeah.
The turnout has been massive.
Astronomical turnout, and that's
Been
because that is
amazing.
people power. That.
Yeah, definitely. People Power's worked. I think Common, the hip hop artist and actor, he's also been traveling to various states, touring, encouraging people to vote. Whether you're black, white, Hispanic, he's been trying to encourage people to vote, make the right decision, vote for the person that's going to look after your community, your family's family, and it's just all those things really. I think that's tied in with it, and it's amazing to see people who've got an influence already on their social media and have big profiles, that they've been able to go out there and kind of spread that message, and it's actually helped. It's helped massively. But
I remember that Eminem freestyle when Trump just first got in. Do you remember that?
I
He was in
remember.
like a parking lot. What was it called? He did a freestyle as soon as Trump got in. It was pretty decent, actually.
I can't remember the full sentence of it, but I do remember it was pretty funny enough from when he did that.
But obviously, we didn't know how bad it'd get at that point.
No.
Yeah, we don't know how bad it would perceive to be.
It shows the power of celebrity, like you said, Jez. So many celebrities were pushing all over social media, and, through the news agencies. They were pushing people to go out and use their right to vote, and it's even more important in America because of how their system works. It's not first past the post. The one who gets the most actual votes might not necessarily win. We saw that in the 2000 presidential election. Al Gore got about 500,000 more votes than Bush, but was still defeated. Hillary Clinton at the last US election in 2016 got about 3 million more votes than Trump, and we know what happened. But because of the way their system works, it's still important to get those people out in the different states to make sure that the ones with the highest number of electoral college votes go to the right candidate. And thankfully this time that is what's happened.
It was some much needed good news in some really dodgy, shady times, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah, definitely. I mean, there is cases of COVID that's increasing as well over in there. So we're hoping that, you said, I know is it up until January and that Trump has to run up until, and then
hands over, I think.
Imagine the Twitter feed between now and January of Trump. Oh my word.
Could he get anywhere?
He's going to be on a bend. He's going to be like an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend that's gone crazy. That guy, he is not going to go down without a fight, and he is.
He's already he's challenging, isn't he? Legal battle.
I think there's about 10 court applications gone in or something stupid. But it's the measure of the man, isn't it? It's the measure of the man. He just can't accept. But he's a narcissist. He doesn't. To him, he doesn't get defeated, and that's it. And that's why he is how he is.
Hopefully he'll be able to do his legal challenges in his Trump Towers back in New York, and he'll be able to stay in there for a period of time. I think it's.
I definitely think it's a really good, massive move for the Black Lives Matter movement has massively impacted on this result. I think.
Oh yeah.
In terms of people just saying no. We're not going to do it anymore. This kind of person shouldn't be in power in the first place, and we're certainly not going to let him carry on.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that was seen on videos, and I mean, it was very a lot of it. I mean, we could go back. Listeners, obviously, out there will know from previous episodes and that they've listened to about our emotions, what our take was on what happened over there. And even over here as well, I think there was an influence of people that were involved in the marches, even the statues. I mean, that's been a big one. People have been able to use their voice, and I mean, it's just now with, I mean, the cases of what Boris and Trump feel about those situations. There's not real any kind of empathy towards it. It's almost like they don't really have that care.
And in Trump's case, it's the opposite. He's been very inflammatory about it, and so divisive with his comments, and almost encouraging and inciting the right the extreme right in many cases
Mm.
to rise up and and calling anything that's left wing, however left wing it is, referring to them as terrorist organisations, and he's just fanned the flames of division in America.
Well, we see it with the likes of
unbelievable.
Corbyn, when people that stand up for the good of people all their lives, and it can be twisted to be a whole different narrative because of the crazy world we live in. It just shows you, doesn't it? Truth and lies are very, very, very blurred these days. When it comes to politics and the media. But we've had it's been a great result. I can't believe it went up for days.
Yeah, so many days it went on. Rich, what's your feelings towards it? What's your how are you feeling about it?
Well, it's good to see Trump out, but people have to realize that Biden is not gonna save America. It's everyone that has to work with him. I think Trump's legacy, what has he achieved? He hasn't really achieved everything. And I think it was the first.
I can't think of much.
Yeah, it's the first time maybe in my life where, like, you can't tell your children you could be president, you could be the prime minister, because the former president and the prime minister we got have shown to be racist, misogynistic at best. Let's not lie about it. And obviously,
could probably say even harsher, couldn't we?
Yeah, but I think Joe Biden, it's not like he hasn't done his dirt, but it's like, I think the world's like, thank goodness, because Donald Trump had his finger on the trigger, and I like to think he doesn't realize, but the language that Trump used was so triggering, so very, as you say, it just divides people. He's like Marmite, you either love him or you hate him. And but one thing you got to realize, and this is the problem, Trump still got the second most votes.
That's the scary thing.
That is the scary thing. It's
how
hard
many
to
people
accept.
like him.
And that's what you've got to accept, that you can say what he wants to say about him, and I don't like him or agree with him, but he's been very successful at what he does. But at the end of the day, he got a lot of votes. There's people still there saying Trump's my guy. Trump is my guy. And when you're saying
over
stuff,
70 million. Over 70
and they will be
million.
angrier than ever, those people. They will be crazier than ever, angrier than ever, more staunch than ever. That doesn't go away, does it? That's the thing.
Those feelings are still going to be there. And the worst thing is their access to guns. That's what the scary thing. That's, for me, in these next couple months, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a shooting, some sort of commotion, because obviously you had the black militia tooling up, you had the white militia tooling up, and you've got this like, it feels like there's an unrest in America. And if there's a chance of a civil war in America, I think these next months is going to be telling. And I hope, my only hope is that Trump leaves the office with a little bit of dignity, where he's not, like Hillary conceded, the other president, Bush conceded, and wished them luck. And I just hope that he doesn't try to say, challenge the vote, because it will trigger someone with a mental, it could trigger someone with a mental illness.
I think you're right, Chris, it will trigger.
It will. And there's plenty of them in the Trump camp, that's for sure. I don't but it's true.
And it's like, my fear is that you're going to trigger and trigger and trigger. And you know how your Facebook is. We know how, like, your social media is. It creates this bubble where and it's constantly telling you, Biden's this or that. These people are terrorists. These people are that. You need to stand up for yourself. Yeah. And it's slowly it's a sort of radicalization.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Algorithms have a lot to play in that as well. I mean, like, Biden's a centrist, and There's still going to be questions around neoliberal policies. There's going to still be questions around Palestine and Israel. There's going to be all these things. Getting a neo-fascist out of the White House is a massive step forward. But everything that brought him to there in the first place, all the people that voted for him, they exist. They still, and you know, Black Lives Matter started under Obama. Let's remember, you know, these things have existed in America, regardless of who's in power. So it's about people actually rising up. And I just hope that someone like Biden getting in doesn't squash the energy that people have for fighting, because actually there's so much work to be done.
Like they think he's going to save us, like he's the Messiah, he's going to save us.
Kind of get
we
relaxed.
can just stop. No, they still got to. They still got to be active in the political process, because I think in America they can vote for like their judges. There's different things they can vote for, and they still need to use that power. So,
I mean, I do like defunding the police.
Yeah, chief of the police. Yeah, and I think the thing is, it's not even Biden's victory; it's that we're more happy to see Trump go. I think
that's what it is. That's what it is. It's anyone but Trump, isn't it? And that's what it is, because he's that bad.
Me,
that's very scary. Like, if you got, you know, someone
same
like
in England. Will we really be voting? Will people really be voting for Keir Starmer, or will they be voting for Boris to go? And
Boris
this is
to
the
go,
problem, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think also, like, last point is that how can I say it? The thing that's very telling is that I remember saying, like, Trump is like, he's kind of, you know, like, how did someone describe it? You know, when you break a leg and it heals very badly, and then you've got to snap the leg again and set it so it heals again. I'm just hoping that Trump was that break that America needed to show, this is what you're representing. This is you. And I'm hoping that, you know, with the right sort of the actions, the right sort of policies, that America can go towards healing, because that country, it seems, from what I can see, it seems very divided, where it's so polarizing, where you see people shouting racial slurs to people for going to vote. Like, it feels like Trump was, you know, you see the propaganda that Trump was saying, and then you look at it, what the propaganda like Hitler was using, and you look at it and you think, doesn't seem that different, which was very scary. So that's what I think. That's what I keep saying. I think people, it's not even that, it could have been anyone but Trump. And I just hope that this, as Sarah said, that the energy doesn't go, because there's a lot to be done.
A lot of work to be done.
You know, Richard, on the plus side, I mean, I do think there's many more of us than them, us being people that want generally the best for everyone, and them being the ones that are the oppressors. And I think that over and over again, fascism does get squashed down. And I do think Trump represents fascism. You know, you got in Greece just a few weeks ago, you got this Golden Dawn organisation. 68, I think it was, of their members got imprisoned. That's quite serious, because some of them were MPs, about 13 of them have managed to get into the parliamentary system. And then, we've had the defeat of Trump today, obviously, which is a significant turning point, hopefully. The likes of Tommy Robinson, where's he? Get in the bin, lad. Like, fascists do get squashed down. There are many more of us than them, but it's such a level of energy that's needed. And like you say, you just don't want people to give up. You don't want people to think it's all...
It's done. We've done. Job done
now.
Just the beginning. Just the beginning, that's it.
The start, the start.
So is there anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to add to the news, really, other than what you've mentioned before?
I think the only thing we can say is, Donald, you were about to lose your job. You were about to lose your job. That is the only thing we can say.
Oh, why did I say that? I should have said that to you.
Rich, it was the best gift you could have given me.
It has to be good news. I mean, we haven't got anything else to cling on to and
Yeah.
the ruler, the horrible ruler of America is going in the bin. Oh man,
The witch is dead.
yeah.
The witch is dead. Now, well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been really appreciated having you on.
Thank you so much for having
thank
me.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Thank you. Rich, Si, great job again. Listeners, check us out on rtshowpodcast.com for any of the latest episodes. We'll be going live on YouTube, so we'll also
Check them
share
out.
that on
I've just listened to Black Habits. That was a great episode, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah, we did a
Highly
really good one.
recommended.
Thank you, Sarah. And we're also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So yeah, check us out on those as well. And yeah, what day it's been. Thank you all.
Oh,
And,
indeed.
and we'll see you shortly for another great episode. Thanks and good night.
Good night.
Good
Cheers.
night.